Next, sew on the strap. Here is the pre-made strap. Attach it directly to the back of the main part. Sew it at the top, centered on the main part. The opening edge goes downward. Attach the straps on both sides about 2 centimeters inward from the edges of the bag. Slightly angle them toward the sides. The side components can be placed facing down here, or they can also be placed facing up. Trim any excess parts. You can also choose to keep it. Below, I will provide a method for sewing the strap for your reference. Everyone can also attach it based on their preference. Please watch the demonstration. Since the holes in the securing piece are small, before sewing, use a thin needle to go through the holes in the securing piece first. This makes the subsequent sewing more convenient. Do this for each hole. After completing this step, start sewing. Place the securing piece in the corresponding position. Insert the needle from inside the piece and come out. Leaving a little yarn tail. Then insert it into the corresponding hole of the securing piece. Make sure to insert from the back. Then go through the adjacent hole. Exit through the previously reserved loop. Pull tight. Insert the needle again from the back. Come out through the next hole of the securing piece. Then insert again through the same hole here. Exit through the hole on the left side. Next, insert from the left hole. Come out through the adjacent hole. Insert through the right hole. Everyone repeat this process. Keep sewing until you finish the entire round. Pay attention and adjust the position while sewing. Make sure not to sew crooked. Once completed, tie a knot on the wrong side and cut the thread. This completes the attachment of the top securing piece. Now sew the securing pieces at both ends of the strap downwards. I'll start with the right strap here. You need to trim a little off the bottom of the strap before sewing. Use the securing piece to check the fit. Cut off any excess material. After cutting, lightly burn the edge with a lighter. Then place the strap underneath the base piece. Be mindful not to twist the strap here. After determining the position, sew a few stitches to secure the strap to the base piece. Then pick up the securing piece. And sew it onto the top of the strap. The sewing method is the same as for the upper securing piece. Before sewing, you need to pass the needle through the hole with a thin needle. Everyone should sew around this round. After finishing, tie off and weave in the ends on the wrong side. This completes the sewing of the right strap. The left strap should be sewn in the same way, at a symmetrical position. This concludes the explanation of the straps. Next, let's make the claws. There are front claws and back claws. Make them separately and attach them. Let's start with the front claws. There are 2 in total. Each front claw consists of the toe part and the palm part. Start by crocheting the toe part. You need to crochet 3 of them. After completing them, connect them, and crochet the palm part. Please watch me demonstrate. Start with crocheting the toe part. Pick up the corresponding yarn. Begin with a magic ring. Then make 1 chain. The beginning chain is not marked in the chart. In reality, when crocheting in rounds, you always start with a beginning chain. Next, pick up the magic ring. Crochet 8 single crochets. After completing them, close the ring. Finally, slip stitch into the first single crochet. Tighten it. Then leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. Now 1 toe part is completed. Repeat the same method to crochet 2 more toes. Note that you need to fasten off the yarn on one of the toes. Leave 1 toe without cutting the yarn. After finishing, start crocheting the palm. Continue with the toe that hasn't been fastened off. First, make 1 chain to begin. Then pick up the stitches from the current toe. Crochet 8 single crochets evenly. You can weave the starting yarn tail as you crochet. At this point, work evenly. The piece will curve inward slightly. Turn the right side out. Pick up the next toe that was previously fastened off. Pick up stitches and work 4 single crochets evenly. Leave the yarn tail from the beginning chain for now. Only weave the final yarn tail when you fasten off at the end. After completing, pick up the remaining toes. Pick up stitches and work 8 single crochets evenly. Similarly, leave the starting yarn tail for now. Once done, turn the piece so the right side is facing outwards. Continue downward by picking up the stitches on the left side of the toe. For the remaining stitches, work single crochets evenly. After finishing, pick up the first single crochet of the starting toe. Join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. Then secure the yarn tail. Here, leave the 2 long yarn tails from the beginning chain, and trim the rest of the short yarn tails. At this point, the first round is completed. The 3 toes are now connected together. Continue crocheting for the second round. First, make 1 chain. Then pick up the stitches from the previous round. Work into each stitch evenly. Finally, pick up the first stitch and slip stitch. Tighten. The second round is complete. For the remaining rounds, continue to pick up the stitches from the previous round and crochet in rounds. You can simply refer to the chart for crocheting. After finishing, remember to leave a tail of the appropriate length for sewing. After completing, sew the openings between the toes. Here, use the yarn tail reserved from the beginning chain for sewing. Bring the tails to the outside separately. Thread them into a darning needle. Pick up the position of the opening and sew 1-2 stitches. There's no specific method required, just make sure it's secure. After finishing, tie the tail with an adjacent part. Then bring it inside. The remaining ends can be directly woven into the piece. Follow the same method to sew up the other opening. Everyone can finish this part on their own. Then, you'll need to stuff a little filling inside. First, fluff up the stuffing here. Then stuff it into the piece. You can use scissors to help with this. Be careful when stuffing. Make sure not to prick your hands. And control the amount of stuffing as you see fit. Just make sure the piece is nicely rounded and full. Then proceed to close the opening. Thread the reserved yarn into a sewing needle. Pick up the front loops of the last round. There are 2 strands of yarn in each stitch. The one closer to you is the front loop. Insert the needle through the front loops sequentially. Finally, pull the yarn tight. Tie a knot with the adjacent position and secure it. That's how you complete the closing. By this point, one front paw is completed. Everyone can make another front paw using the same method. Next, we'll move on to assembly. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small sample. Position the toes facing downward. Then place them symmetrically above the TPU edging. On the curvy sides. You can refer to the finished product for the exact positioning, or adjust according to your preference. Then use the reserved yarn. Sew together the bottom of the front paw, where it meets the piece for a close fit. There's no specific requirement for the method, just make sure it's secure. First, thread the yarn to the wrong side. Finally, tie off and weave in the end. You can tie a few extra knots for added security. Weave the tail inside the piece. And that's how one front paw is attached. Attach the other front paw symmetrically. Please complete it on your own. That concludes the tutorial for the front paws. Next, we'll move on to the back paws. They consist of the small toes, the big toe, the palm, the large pad, and the small pads. Start by crocheting the toes, then connect them while crocheting the palm. After that, crochet the pads separately and attach them. Let's start with the toes. There are two sizes here, large and small. The method for crocheting the small toes is identical to the front paws. The first round of the big toe is the same as the small toe. You also need to crochet another round with even single crochets. Remember to start each round with a beginning chain for the toes. At the end, slip stitch in the first stitch. Pay attention to the second round of the big toe. Before crocheting the slip stitch, make sure to turn the piece so the right side faces outward. This is the side where the stitch texture looks neat and tidy. After completing the small toes, break the yarn for each of them. For the large toes, break the yarn for one of them. Leave the other one with the yarn unbroken. Refer to the chart for guidance. Crochet all the corresponding toes as shown. Once done, move on and connect the two large toes. Start by continuing from the large toe that still has the yarn attached. Make one chain. Then work 8 single crochets evenly. After completing this, pick up the other large toe. Pick up the stitches and work 8 single crochets. Weave the yarn tail of the broken yarn as you crochet. Leave the starting tail of the yarn for later use. After completing, pick up the starting single crochet and slip stitch. Tighten. At this point, the first round is complete. Next, move on to crochet the second round. You will need to connect the small toes in this round. Start by making one beginning chain. Then pick up the stitches and work 4 single crochets. Pick up the small toe. Pick up the stitches and work 8 single crochets. Flip the right side of the piece outward. Then pick up the remaining stitches from the adjacent large toe. Work 4 single crochets. Next, pick up the stitches from the left large toe. Work 4 single crochets. Pick up the last small toe. Crochet 8 single crochets. You can leave 3 yarn tails here in total. You can weave the yarn tail of the last toe while crocheting. Flip the right side of the piece outward. Trim the remaining yarn tails. Continue picking up stitches. From the left large toe, crochet 4 single crochets. Finally, pick up the starting single crochet and slip stitch. Pull tight. At this point, the second round is complete. Here, you can check the stitch count. For the remaining rounds, just crochet according to the chart. After finishing, use the reserved yarn from the starting chain to sew up the gap. Then stuff in an appropriate amount of stuffing. Finally, sew up the ending opening. Here, I'll demonstrate the method. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small sample. Thread the reserved yarn into a darning needle. Then align the piece horizontally. Press the opening flat. Work your way down from the edge. Pick up the stitches on both sides of the opening and match them for sewing. Follow the whip stitch method. Insert the needle sequentially. Finally, tie a knot with the yarn, and secure it at an adjacent position. Leave the remaining yarn tail for now. That concludes the explanation for the palm section. Next, crochet the large pad and the small pads. The methods and stitches used have been demonstrated before. You can simply refer to the chart for crocheting. Since the piece is small, when assembling this part, you can use a glue stick to attach it. If you want it to be more secure, you can also sew it with yarn. If you choose to sew it, make sure to leave a corresponding length of yarn tail after crocheting. When no sewing is needed, simply leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. That concludes the explanation for crocheting the pads. The final step is assembly and attachment. Place the small pad with the wrong side facing outwards, and position it below the toe. If you're sewing, use the reserved yarn to pick up the edges, and roughly match them for sewing. There's no strict requirement for the method. As long as it's secure and looks nice, you can complete the sewing on your own. Here, I'll demonstrate the method of using a glue stick for attachment. The yarn tail can be pressed directly under the piece. If the yarn tail is too long, you can trim it a bit. Then place it on the corresponding position, and use the glue stick to attach it. When using the glue stick for attachment, you can ignite the glue stick for better adhesion. If you have a hot glue gun at home, you can insert the glue stick into the glue gun instead. Apply glue on the inside of the piece. And then attach it to the proper position. This way, the small pad is installed. The method for installing the large pad is the same, with the wrong side of the piece facing out. Place it in the middle of the palm. You can sew it with yarn or use a glue stick to attach it. Everyone can complete this on their own. This concludes the installation of the large pad. Finally, attach the entire back paw to the diagonal lower sides of the TPU. Here, the toes should face inward. You can refer to the finished product for the effect, or install it in a suitable position based on personal preference. Use the tail left from before. Sew a few stitches where the piece meets to secure it in place. There's no specific method required. As long as it's secure and looks nice, everyone can finish this part on their own. This concludes the explanation of the back paw section. Next, we'll make the collar. Start by crocheting the rope, then attach the tag. The crocheting method for the rope is the same as the edging around the TPU. Begin with a foundation chain, then crochet a row of single crochets. After finishing, check the dimension. Follow along above the TPU. Work around the top in a circle. Here, the side is below the zipper opening. Place the beginning and ending connection at the back. Once the size fits well, break the yarn. Then use the same color yarn again for sewing. Have the foundation chain side face downward? Make sure the right side of the single crochets faces out. You can use a glue stick to mark a few points. Secure the positions temporarily with glue. This makes sewing more convenient. Then use the sewing thread. Pick up and sew the wrong sides together roughly in corresponding areas. There's no specific method required. Just make sure it's secure. Complete this step on your own. Finally, attach the tag at the front. Here, I'll demonstrate the method. Use the same color yarn as the collar for crocheting. Take a long tail of the yarn, thread it into a darning needle. Place the tag with its right side facing out. Position it at the center front. Pick up and sew a few stitches at the bottom to secure it. Finally, tie off the yarn tails with a knot. Weave the remaining strands inside the piece. You can complete this step on your own. That concludes the explanation of the collar section. Next, we'll attach the wings. Here, cut the wings in half from the middle. Then glue them directly beside the front paws. Underneath the collar. Refer to the finished product for positioning. You can also adjust according to your preference. Only glue the bottom part of the wings. You can complete this step on your own. That concludes the explanation of the wings. Next, we'll work on the spots. There are two sizes, large and small. The small spots come in two lengths, short and long. Make them separately, then attach them. Let's start with the large spots. They consist of 3 parts. Here, crochet the first part and the second part separately. After completing the first part, fasten off the yarn. For the second part, don't cut the yarn. Then move on to the third part, and at the same time, join it with the first part while crocheting. Pay attention to the orientation of the piece when connecting. The last row of the first part should have an identical texture to the last row of the second part. No new stitches or methods are used here. Just refer to the chart and crochet. Now let's talk about the small spots. There are 2 types, short and long. The method is the same for both. The only difference is the number of stitches. Both start with a foundation chain. Then crochet 1 row along the foundation chain. A new stitch is used here, T-half double crochet. Please watch me demonstrate. I'll demonstrate using the short spot. Start with a foundation chain. Crochet 7 chains. Then begin from the second to last stitch. Pick up one loop of the chain and make one single crochet. Then crochet one half double crochet. Continue with 4 more half double crochets. After completing, if sewing is needed, leave a yarn tail of appropriate length. If using glue to attach, simply leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. At this point, the short spot is completed. Refer to the chart and complete the corresponding number of short and long spots. That concludes the explanation of the small spots. Proceed with the attachment. Start by attaching the large spot. You need to work single crochets along one side while securing it in place. Use yarn to sew and fix the remaining parts. Here, I'll demonstrate the technique. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small sample. Pick up the large spot first. Position the first 2 sections downward. Find the centered stitch of the third section. Align it with the front of the main part. Match the centered position of the bag opening. You can use a stitch marker or yarn tail to secure it in place. Then arrange it along the curve toward both sides. Keep the edge about 2-3 rows apart from the bottom collar. Secure it at this position. You can fix a few points during this process. After securing, start connecting. Begin from the position near the right edge. Pick up the side above the bottom collar. Work the 2 strands of the edge to join the yarn. If you've sewn a zipper here, it might be difficult to insert the hook. You can pick up 2 strands of the corresponding stitch on the inner side. Just make sure the insertion point is secure. Then, make 1 chain. After that, pick up the chain spaces along each row's edge. Work 1 single crochet into each space. Similarly, if it's hard to insert the hook, just pick a roughly corresponding position and insert there. Remember to weave in while crocheting. When you encounter the spot, pick up the edge spaces of the spot and the bag opening spaces. Work a single crochet by combining them together. For the rest, continue picking up 2 edge spaces from both pieces. Work single crochets by combining them together. The row numbers may not correspond exactly here. Just insert your hook into roughly corresponding positions on both sides. After finishing, the curvature of the 2 pieces should match, as long as the piece lays flat. If you encounter a stitch along the way, pick it up and insert into it. Continue crocheting downward. Keep going until you reach the edge on the other side. Finish crocheting the spot area. For the remaining part, continue picking up edge spaces and working single crochets. Work a slip stitch into the last space. Ensure that both sides are symmetrical in position. Then fasten off the yarn. Weave the yarn tail on the wrong side of the piece. This secures the top side of the large spot. Next, use the yarn tail. Take a long yarn tail. Pick up the inner side edges of the piece. Match and sew together with the main part. There's no specific method required, just make sure it's secure. You can also use a glue stick to attach it firmly if you prefer. This part is left for you to complete on your own. That concludes the installation of the large spot. Next, we'll move on to installing the small spot. It goes directly above the large spot. Install the long spot vertically in the centered position. Cover the openings of the two sections. Attach the short spots on both sides. At each end of the large spot. Install the long spot horizontally near the edge. A little above that. Attach the short spot horizontally. You can sew, or use a glue stick to secure it. When sewing, pick the wrong side, and insert the needle there. Make sure the edges are neat and look nice. When gluing, press all the yarn tails to the back. At the same time, make sure the small spots are right side facing up. Everyone can finish this part on your own. That concludes the explanation of attaching the spots. Next, we will create the facial features. It includes the eyes, nose, blush, and ears. Crochet them separately first. After completing, attach them together. Start by crocheting the eyes. Start with a foundation chain of 3 stitches. Then, from the second stitch from your hook, pick up 1 loop of the chain. Work SC3 in 1. If you see square brackets in the chart, it means the stitches inside the brackets are worked into the same position. Pick up 1 loop from the left side of the chain. Work 5 single crochets into 1 stitch. This completes the stitches within the square brackets. Next, pick up the remaining half of the adjacent chain. Work at SC2 in 1. Finally, pick up the starting single crochet. Join with a slip stitch. There's no need to tighten here. If you need to sew while attaching, leave a tail of yarn with the corresponding length. If there's no need for sewing, just break the yarn. You can cut off the remaining yarn from the starting chain. This completes the eyes. Next, you'll need to sew a highlight on the eyes. Refer to the chart and pick up the color yarn. Take a long tail of yarn, then separate 1 strand from the yarn. Insert it into a thin needle. Turn the eye with the wrong side facing out. Place it vertically. At a point slightly above the left side, where the stitch enters at the top. Embroider a French knot with 6 rounds. Bring the yarn forward from the back. Start by leaving a bit of yarn tail. Then, at the exit point, wrap the yarn around the needle 6 times. Make sure the loops are tightly connected here. After that, press the yarn with your thumb. Pull the needle out. Insert it again just beside the exit point. This will create the large highlight. Tie the 2 yarn tails into a knot to secure it. Then move to the position on the right bottom. Embroider a small highlight. Exit from the corresponding position. Then wrap the yarn around the needle 2 times. Ensure the loops are flush against the piece. Pull the needle out. Insert it into an adjacent position. That's how you finish the small highlight. Tie it off with the starting yarn tail to secure it. Trim the remaining strands and place them on the inner side of the piece. That completes the embroidery for the highlights. Everyone, follow the same method to crochet another eye and embroider the highlight above it. That concludes the explanation for the eyes. Next, we'll crochet the nose. Start with a magic ring. Then chain 2. Pick up the stitch and work 2 half double crochets. Chain 2 after that. Pick up the stitch again and work 1 slip stitch. After completing, close the magic ring. No slip stitch is needed at the end. If sewing is required during attachment, leave an appropriate length of yarn. If no sewing is needed, leave about 5 centimeters of yarn and cut it. Tie the 2 yarn tails into a knot to secure. That completes the nose. Next, we'll discuss the blush. The crocheting method is the same as for the large pad. You can simply follow the chart to crochet it. Leave the yarn tail according to the situation at the end. Everyone can finish it on their own. That concludes the explanation of the blush. Next, we'll discuss the ears. There are 2 in total. Each ear is divided into the outer ear and the inner ear. Crochet them separately first, then assemble them together. Let's start with the outer ear. Begin with a magic ring, then work around the magic ring. Use 5 new stitches. F double crochet, TVHDC 2 in 1, FVDC 2 in 1, E treble crochet, FWDC 3 in 1. Please watch me demonstrate. Start with a magic ring. Then make 3 beginning chains. These 3 chains count as 1 double crochet, then pick up the ring and work 8 double crochets. After completing, close the ring. Next, insert into the top chain of the beginning chains. Pick 2 strands of the chain and slip stitch. Pull tight. At this point, the first round is complete. Now move on to the second round. Start with 1 chain. This is the beginning chain for single crochet. This chain doesn't count as 1 stitch. Next, pick up the position of the previous beginning chain. It's where the slip stitch was inserted before. Work at SC 2 in 1. You can weave the yarn tail while crocheting. Continue picking up stitches from the adjacent area. Work another SC 2 in 1. The stitch here might be slightly puckered. Insert your hook into the top 2 strands. Crochet a HDC 2 in 1. That is, work 2 half double crochets in one position. 1 stitch. 2 stitches. Complete the HDC 2 in 1, then crochet a DC 2 in 1. That is, work 2 double crochets in one position. Complete the DC 2 in 1. Continue with 2 more DC 2 in 1. Work 1 HDC 2 in 1. Then make 2 SC 2 in 1. At this point, turn the piece so the right side is facing out. Then, on the first single crochet, slip stitch. Pull tight. The second round is complete. Continue to the third round. Start with 1 chain. When the first stitch is a single crochet, always start with 1 chain as your beginning chain. Note that the beginning chain doesn't count as 1 stitch. I won't repeat this in the following steps. Next, pick up the stitches to the left. Work 1 SC2 in 1. Then work 4 single crochets evenly. For the remaining stitches, pick up each stitch accordingly. Refer to the chart and crochet the corresponding stitches. After finishing the last stitch, slip stitch at the first single crochet. Pull tight. The third round is complete. Move on to the fourth round. Start with 1 chain. Then work 7 single crochets evenly. Work 2 half double crochets. Work 1 double crochet. Next there's a bracket. Work 1 double crochet first. Then work 2 treble crochets in the same position. Start with the first stitch. Wrap the yarn around the hook twice. Insert the hook. Yarn over and pull through. There are 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops on the hook. Repeat this 3 times. First time. Second time. Third time. Finish the treble crochet. Continue with 1 more treble crochet. This completes the stitches within the square brackets. The next is still within the square brackets. First, crochet 2 treble crochets. Then, work 1 double crochet. This completes the stitches in the square brackets. Continue following the chart for the remaining stitches. Finally, pick up the starting single crochet and slip stitch. Pull tight. The fourth round is now completed. Next, proceed to crochet the fifth round. Start with 2 chains. This beginning chain counts as 1 half double crochet. Match it with the starting single crochet below. Pick up the next stitch on the left side. Crochet 7 half double crochets. Then crochet 4 double crochets. Next, make a DC 3 in 1. That is, crochet 3 double crochets into the same position. 1 stitch. 2 stitches. 3 stitches. Complete the DC 3 in 1. Continue with another DC 3 in 1 in the adjacent stitch. Then keep crocheting while referring to the pattern. Finish the last stitch. Slip stitch into the 2 strands from the second chain of the beginning chain. It doesn't matter if you tighten it or not. Finally, leave 30 centimeters tail and cut the yarn. That's how you crochet the outer ear. Now move on to making the inner ear. Start with a foundation chain, then work back and forth along the foundation chain. When you get to the end, switch to crocheting in rounds. For the first 3 rows, there are no new stitches or techniques, so just follow the chart to crochet. In the 4th round, the entry position is a bit special. Here, I'll demonstrate the method for the 4th round. Pick up where the 3rd row yarn tail left off. Start with 1 chain, then pick up the side edges of the previous 3 rows on the left. Pick up the holes along the edge. Work 1 single crochet into each hole. You will end up with a total of 3 single crochets. After completing, move down and pick up the edge again. Pick up the remaining half of the chains. For the entry position on this side, work SC 3 in 1. Continue picking up the remaining half of the adjacent chains. Work 4 single crochets correspondingly. Work SC 3 in 1 as you move downward. Then pick up the side edges of each row. Work 1 single crochet into each hole. You will end up with a total of 2 single crochets. When you reach the top of the last row, pick up the edge stitch and work 1 SC 2 in 1. Chain 2. Then pick up the adjacent stitch, which is where the single crochet was initially worked. Work 1 single crochet. Then slip stitch into the first single crochet. Pull this section slightly tighter here. When attaching downward, if sewing is required, leave a corresponding length of yarn for sewing. If no sewing is needed, leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. That concludes the explanation of the inner ear. Next, we will assemble the inner ear with the outer ear. Pick up the outer ear. Flatten the piece along the yarn tail. The end with the yarn tail should face inward. The other end of the piece should tilt downward slightly. Then, at the center front position, attach the inner ear. Here, ensure the last round on the piece with neat texture facing outward. The end with the chain should face upward. Then use the reserved yarn to pick up the edge and sew together. Alternatively, you can glue it securely with a glue stick. If you choose to glue, press the remaining yarn tails to the back side afterward. Then you can proceed with gluing. Here, I'll demonstrate the method for sewing. Use the reserved yarn and thread it into a yarn needle. Insert the needle slightly inside the edge of the piece. Try not to pick up the stitches directly on the edge. This will keep the edge neat and attractive. There's no strict requirement for the method, as long as it's secure. After completing, tie off the yarn on the wrong side of the piece, then stuff the remaining yarn tails into the inside of the piece. You can finish this part on your own. This will complete the assembly of a single inner ear and outer ear. The method for assembling the other outer ear and inner ear is the same. Pay attention to ensure the placement direction of the two outer ears is symmetrical. The side with the yarn tails should face inward. The piece curves outward on both sides. Then, attach the inner ear at the front center. You can complete this step on your own. At this point, the explanation for the ear is finished. Finally, proceed with the installation of the facial features. Start by attaching the nose. Trim the shorter yarn tail to a suitable length. Then press it against the wrong side of the piece. Next, place the nose below the large spot. Position it slightly above the center of this area. Afterward, use the reserved yarn for sewing. Either pick up the edge and sew together or glue it down with a glue stick. When sewing here, insert the needle into the inner side. Keep the edges neat and attractive. At the same time, after sewing, make sure to bring the thread out from the bottom. If using a glue stick to attach, simply glue it directly. Place the longer yarn tail underneath. Here, I'll demonstrate the gluing process. Next, take the yarn tail at the bottom and trim it, leaving about 1 centimeter. Use the glue stick to secure the yarn tail firmly. That's how you attach the nose. After it's done, symmetrically attach the eyes on both sides of the nose. Place them at the intersection of the spot and the main part. Make sure the side with the highlight faces outward. Position them vertically. Here, the larger highlight is placed at the bottom. Then sew or glue them securely. Everyone can finish this step on their own. Next, install the blush diagonally below the eyes. Similarly, keep the wrong side of the piece facing out. Place it in the correct orientation. Then sew or glue it securely. Everyone can complete this step on their own. Finally, attach the ears. Place the inner part of the ear facing forward. Position the two ears symmetrically at both ends of the spot. It's roughly the relatively centered position of these two sections. The exact position can also be adjusted according to your preference. The bottom curve of the ear corresponds roughly with the edge curve. Below, I'll demonstrate the method for sewing. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small sample. Pick up the opening below the outer ear. Sew it to the corresponding position on the piece. There's no specific requirement for the method, just make sure it's secure and looks nice. After completing, tie off the thread. Weave the remaining strands inside the piece. Everyone can finish this step on their own. This way, one side of the ear is attached. Install the other ear symmetrically. Everyone can complete this on their own. That concludes the explanation of attaching the facial features. Next, we will make the hat. It is divided into the main part, a star, decorations, and a bow. Among these, the bow is pre-made. Start by crocheting the main part. Then create the decorations above the main part. After that, crochet the star and attach it. Finally, attach the bow. Here, the main part starts with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds. No new stitches or methods are used. You can directly follow the chart to crochet. Note that there are fewer stitches in the first few rounds. After completing the last stitch of the second round, make sure to flip the piece so the right side is facing out before making the slip stitch. After crocheting is finished, leave a tail for sewing. Complete this step on your own. Then crochet the decorations. Pick up the corresponding yarn. Then locate the sixth round of the main part. Crochet a round of slip stitches into its stitches. Insert the hook into the position of the beginning chain. Make a slip knit with the yarn. Draw it through. Adjust it slightly. The loops on the hook here shouldn't be too tight. Then pick up the stitches in sequence from left to right. Work slip stitches. The slip stitches here should also not be too tight. Finally, pick the position where you joined the yarn. Work one slip stitch. Then leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. Weave the yarn tail inside. Tie a knot with the beginning and ending yarn tails to secure them. Weave the remaining yarn tails inside directly. This completes the decoration. Continue crocheting the star. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Then make one chain. Next, pick up the ring and work one single crochet. Then create a CH1SL picket. Start with one chain. Pick up the single crochet below. Take the thread in front and the thread on the left. Work one slip stitch. This completes the CH1SL picket. Continue with one chain. Then pick up the ring and work one slip stitch. This completes one group of stitches in parentheses. I'll demonstrate another group now. Start with one chain. Work one single crochet. Then create a CH1SL picket. Follow with one chain. Pick up the ring and work one slip stitch. That completes another group. Continue crocheting following this method. After finishing the last group, start closing the ring. If the ring is small here, you can slide the crocheted part forward. Then leave a bit of tail and fasten off the yarn. Tie the yarn tail into a knot on the wrong side. That's it for the star. Next, we'll move on to assembly and attaching. First, take the main part of the hat. And place the unworked section at the back. Then press the piece flat. Fold it in half toward the right. Take a new piece of yarn for crocheting. Thread it through the darning needle. Sew and secure it at the folded position. Once the fit is proper, tie off the thread with a knot. Trim the remaining strands and weave them inside. Next, attach the main part. Place it in front of the right ear. Slightly upward. Align the outer edge without crocheting with the edge of the ear. It should look like this overall. You can also adjust the placement according to your preference. Use the reserved yarn for sewing next. Roughly match, and sew together the edges here with the ear. Only sew the second to last round here. Leave the final round unsewn. Let it curl naturally. Then rest the hat against the ear afterward. Sew 1-2 stitches at the selected position to secure it. First, thread the yarn to an appropriate position. Finally, tie off the yarn tail, and weave it inside the piece. Everyone can finish this on their own. This completes the assembly of the hat's main part. Next, attach the star to the top of the hat. Place the side without the yarn tails facing forward. You can use the remaining yarn here. Take a longer piece of yarn. Pick a corner near the yarn tail position. Sew it together with the top of the hat. Alternatively, you can use a glue stick to attach it. Here, I'll demonstrate the method for sewing. Thread the yarn through the needle. Then insert the needle into one of the corners on the edge of the star. Sew a few stitches to secure it to the top of the hat. Next, tie the two yarn tails together to secure them. Then weave the yarn tails inside the piece. This is the method for attaching by sewing. If you choose to use a glue stick, first, weave the two yarn tails inside the piece. Then apply glue to the bottom and stick it on. That concludes the explanation for attaching the star. Finally, at the front, attach a bow for decoration. You can complete this step on your own. At this point, the explanation for the hat is finished. Next, we will make the tail. Start with a magic ring. Crochet in rounds. You will need to change colors during this process. We will use a new stitch. It's the HDC2 tog. Please watch as I demonstrate. Start with a magic ring. Then chain 2. These 2 chains count as 1/2 double crochet. Next, pick up the ring and work 9 double crochets. After completing, close the ring. Then pick up the second chain of the beginning chain. Slip stitch into the 2 strands to join. Pull tight. The first round is complete. Now move on to the second round. Start with 2 chains. Then pick up the position of the beginning chain from the previous round. This is where the slip stitch was inserted. Work 1/2 double crochet. Finish the stitches inside the brackets. Continue picking up stitches below. Work 9 HDC2 in 1 correspondingly. After completing, slip stitch into the second chain of the beginning chain. Pull tight. The second round is complete. Now work on the third round. Start with 2 chains. Then pick up the stitches from the left. Work half double crochets evenly. Finish with the last stitch. Slip stitch into the beginning chain. Pull tight. The third round is complete. For the fourth round, use the same method as the third round. Everyone can finish it on their own. After completing, work on the fifth round. This round requires a color change. You will also need this color again after 2 rounds. To reduce breaking and joining yarn, we can carry the yarn across. Enlarge the loop. Then bring the skein from the inside of the piece. Slightly tighten it. That completes carrying the yarn. Next, insert the hook into the previous slip stitch position. Pick up the color you need to change to. Make a slip knot. Join the yarn. Chain 2. Pick up stitches and work 2 half double crochets evenly. Weave the yarn tail from joining here. Place the previous yarn tail in its original position. Work at HDC2 tog. First, pick up the adjacent stitch. Work an unclosed half double crochet. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. This is the unclosed half double crochet. Next, pick up the adjacent stitch. Work an unclosed half double crochet. There are now 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through all loops. Complete the HDC2 tog. Continue with another HDC2 tog in the adjacent stitch. Follow the chart for the remaining stitches. Place the yarn tail from the previous round at the back. Pick up the top of the beginning chain. Join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. The 5th round is completed. Continue using this color to crochet the 6th round. Everyone finish it up. After completing the crocheting, use the same color. This color will be needed again for 2 rounds after that. Carry the yarn across. When crocheting the 7th round, insert into the position where the slip stitch was made before the beginning chain. Pull the corresponding thread directly up. Yarn over and pull through. For the remaining rounds, use this method whenever you encounter a color change. If a color is not needed anymore, simply fasten off the yarn. At the start of each round, make a beginning chain. At the end, slip stitch into the second chain from the beginning chain. Make sure to tighten it. Follow the chart and crochet accordingly. After completing, leave a tail for sewing, then stuff the piece as needed. You can finish it on your own. Once the crocheting is done, proceed to attach. Place the main part with the right side facing you, and locate the beginning chain of the bag bottom between the first and second rounds at the top. Find the centered position, and sew horizontally to attach it. Note that the tail will slightly curl up to the right. That concludes the explanation for the tail. Next, we'll make the little fish. Start by crocheting. After completing, sew on the eyeballs. Here, we use the magic ring. Crochet in rounds. You'll also need to change colors during this process. The color changing technique here is similar to the one used for the tail. When you need to switch colors for the next round, carry the yarn of the previous round. Make sure to keep the colors you'll need later handy. After crocheting, carry the yarn across. When you reach the corresponding position, just draw the yarn through. This part is crocheted in rounds. At the start of each round, make one chain. For the ending, slip stitch into the first stitch. The first 11 rounds are all crocheted in rounds. There are no new stitches or techniques introduced. You can simply refer to the chart for crocheting. The stitch for the last row is slightly special. Here, I'll demonstrate using this small sample. First, fold the piece along the slip stitch marks. This means placing the yarn tail on the side. Then, pick up 2 edge stitches and insert the hook into them simultaneously. Work 1 slip stitch. Next, crochet 4 chains. Below, the chart shows 2E, which indicates treble crochets. Here, pick up the same insertion point to work the treble crochet. Wrap the yarn around the hook twice. Insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. There are 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this 3 times. First time. Second time. Third time. Complete the treble crochet. Continue with another treble crochet in the same position. Then, work 3 chains. Pick up the 2 stitches from both sides on the left. Work 1 slip stitch. Then, crochet 3 chains. Pick up the last 2 stitches. Work 2 treble crochets at the same time. Crochet 4 chains. Work 1 slip stitch in the same position. Fasten off the yarn. Pull the yarn tail directly into the piece. If it's difficult to handle with a hook, you can also use a sewing needle to weave the yarn tail into the piece. This completes the little fish. Next, attach the eyeballs. Use the color you started crocheting with. Take a long tail of yarn, then remove one strand. Insert it into a thin needle. The needle should be able to pass through the bead. Then, at the centered position in the third round, sew one bead on each side for the eyes. Begin by leaving a little yarn tail. After completing, tie the 2 yarn tails into a knot and secure it. Weave the remaining yarn tails and the knot inside the piece. Everyone can finish this on their own. This completes the attachment of the eyeballs. Finally, attach the little fish. Use the same color you started crocheting with. Take a long tail of yarn, then pick up the first round, and sew a few stitches around the zipper to secure it. Everyone can finish this on their own. This concludes the explanation of the little fish. At this point, the decoration is complete. Up to this point, the entire process of making the bag has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.